Back online. So when we sit back and we look at these things, they all bearing witness to this aspect of these things, these signs, these days, and these years, and these seasons, bearing witness to what happened. Because when we see this woman being clothed with the sun and the moon, all it's saying is she clothed with light. You know what I'm saying? And she's bearing witness to a man-child. But let's look at Revelation 21 to 24, what I mentioned earlier about Jerusalem being covered with light. (21 and 22) actually. And get you Daniel 6 and about 24. He said, I saw no temple therein, for Yahuwah Elohim Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. And the city had no need for the sun, no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it. For the esteem of Elohim did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. Remember, he says one esteem of the sun and one esteem of the moon, right? He said that these two things are sitting in it. Look what else he say now. And the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of their rats do bring their esteem and honor into it. Now it's stainly clear. We don't need the moon or the sun here. Why? Because now the Father and the Son are here. So this is where we can sit back and we can see that you can look at the sun and the moon being representative of the Father and the Son, because you have a greater light and you have a lesser light. Hamashiach say, my Father is greater than I. It cleanly states, we don't need the sun and the moon here to get no light. That's what they were set up for. He said, now the Father and the Son are there. So when we actually look at the sun, moon, and the star being on high, right? Now drop down to the 22nd chapter of Revelation and just sit back and look at verse 1, and we can sit back and see the things that were invisible by creation are made manifest by the things that are in creation. He said, he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of Elohim and of the Lamb. Well, right, it say the waters of the deep are in the firmament, right? The firmament being the stone or the foundation. Most thrones are made out of stone. You know what I'm saying? Old school style, they made out of straight stone. You know what I'm talking about? He said, he see a pure water river of life exploding up out of here. See, let's go back and let's look at Genesis chapter 1 then to make sure on that. Genesis 1 and 6. Then it states, and we're going to sit back and look at it. The things that are invisible, they made manifest. Say, Elohim said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Elohim made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. Elohim called the firmament Shamahim, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Elohim said, let the waters under the Shamahim be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. And Elohim called the dry land the Arats, and gathered together of the waters called he seas, and Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself, upon the Arats, and it was so. And the Arats brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good, and the evening and the morning were the third day. So come on back to Revelation 22 and 1. Now you just sat back and see how he said he separated them waters in Shamahim, and there was waters under Shamahim. So when you sit back looking at his waters under Shamahim, see, hold on, because I got to sit back and do it. Matthew chapter 5 now. Matthew chapter 5 before we come to Revelation 22. Matthew chapter 5, verse 33. Hold on now. Now, when we turn around and we look at the Genesis chapter 1, verse 6, he say, Elohim made the firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And he made the firmament and divide the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. So when we look at Matthew 5 and 33, he say, again, you have heard that it have been said by them of old time, thou shalt not forswear thyself, but thou shalt perform unto Yahuwah thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by Shamahim, for it is Elohim's throne, nor by the Arats, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Now he just said Shamahim was his throne. No, I didn't. Thank you, sir.
You just return that to the.
So if the waters is up under Shamahim, then when you sit back and Mashiach just say that Shamahim is Elohim's throne, wouldn't we sit back and see waters proceeding out of his throne? Let's come on back to Revelation 22 then. Revelation 22:1. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of Elohim and of the Lamb. And in the midst of the street of it, and on the either side of the river, was there a tree of life which bare 12 manner of fruits and yielded a fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nation. So now we see the fruit yielding tree after his kind. You know what I'm saying? Whose seed was in itself. So hold on now. Let's look at John chapter 15. Let's look at what Mashiach tell him. John 15:1. He said, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch of me that bear not fruit, he take away, and every branch that bear fruit, he purge it, that it might bring forth more fruit. Now you are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can ye except you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He that abide in me and I in him, the same bring forth much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and withered, and men gather themselves and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. He's just sitting here stating, because we done looked at this before, he's sitting here stating that he's the tree that brings fruit unto itself. The man say, except the corn of wheat fall on the ground and die, abide alone, but if it die, it bring forth much fruit. So again, we see the things that are made in creation, that are made by the things that are invisible, we see that they bear witness of the things that are manifest, that you are without excuse. Because he said this same tree will bring forth all manner of fruit in its season. We're seeing that. We're seeing Hamashiach coming back and fulfilling all of these things, that the things that were invisible are now made manifest, and you have no excuse. The man said you got to abide in him. He said he bring fruit after himself, after his own kind. He said, as ye are. Well, let's look at 1 John chapter 3. Just do it like that. Before we look at this Daniel 6 and about 24. Let's see, 1 John chapter 3. Or 1 John chapter 4 and about verse 15. Whosoever shall confess that Yahushua is the son of Elohim, Elohim dwell in him, and he in Elohim. And we have known and believed the love that Elohim hath to us. Elohim is love. And he that dwell in love dwell in Elohim, and Elohim in him. Herein is our love made perfect, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world. So that's how we turn around and look at it. As he say, his fruit after his own kind. The man bearing witness to that, that as he is, so are we in this world. So when we go back and look in Revelation 22, and we look in verse 3, he said, there shall be no more curse, but the throne of Elohim and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. That's why the stars is there with him also. And they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. And there shall be no night there, and they have no need of candle, neither light of the sun, for Yahuwah Elohim give them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. Let's look at Daniel 6 and 24. Probably make about 6 and 25. He said, then King Darius wrote unto all people and nations and languages that dwell in all their rats, peace be multiplied unto you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom men tremble in fear before the Elohim of Daniel, for he is the living Elohim, steadfast forever, and his kingdom is that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be even unto the end. He deliver and rescue and work signs and wonders in Shamahim and Arats, who have delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. Now he say that these signs are these things in Shamahim are for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. And he say he works these signs showing you that he rescues or that he saves. So I want you to come over back to Job 38, but we're going to drop down a little lower. Hello? Hello? So we look at Job 38, right? And we drop down about verse 31, I suppose. Job 38 and 31, I suppose. Now we had already looked in Job 38 by 7. How he said he made the cloud a garment and the thick darkness a swaddling band of it. And we done looked at the foundations thereof of fastened, who laid the cornerstone, because we know the foundation was fastened with the nails. So when we look in Job 38 and 31, we looking at something. He said, can thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades or loose the bands of Orion? So Pleiades and Orion are two constellations. Now, we're going to look at can thou band. When we look at bind, it means to band together, lead together, conspire. The word we're looking at is kashar. To bind, to fast on. Now, just bear with me. Now we're going to look at sweet influences. That word is mahadana, which means bonds or bands. So he's sitting back asking you, can you bind the bond or band of Pleiades? I don't think it's going to have no meaning, no real meaning for Pleiades. The word is Chemia. And Pleiades is a constellation of 7 stars. Now think about this. This is a constellation of 7 stars. So he's asking you, can you bind the bond of a constellation that has 7 stars? Then he said, can you loose the bands of Orion? So when we look at Orion, the word is Kisal, and this is a constellation as well. But hold on, just bear with me, because we're going to look at every word in this sentence. Good grief. Now when we look at bands, because this is just something that's coming to my head. The word is Mosheka, excuse me, and it means cord. So when we turn around and look at it, he's asking, can thou bind or conspire to stop the bond or the ikad of the influence of the one who's the constellation of 7 stars, and can you loose the bonds of Orion? Can you free him? Now we're going to get to that in a minute. Hold on, listen to what the next verse say. Can thou bring forth Mazaroth in his season, or can thou guide Arctis with his sons? Know thou the ordinances of Shamahim? Can thou set the dominion thereof in the earth? Can thou lift up thy voice to the clouds, that the abundance of waters may cover thee? Can thou send lightnings, that they may go and say unto thee, here we are? So he's asking Job some serious questions here, isn't he? So let's sit back and let's look at the answers to these questions that he's asking Job. And let's see, can they conspire to stop the bond of Pleiades? Now, how do you say this? He's a constellation of 7 stars. We need to see what those 7 stars will be right here in Revelation chapter 1. Revelation chapter 1. Oh, we'll go ahead and look at verse 12. Because remember now, he said the stars also, they all for signs and seasons, days and years. All these things in Shamahim, the constellations in Shamahim too, right? So that means they for signs and seasons, days and years then. And I turned to see the voice that spake with me. Being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. And his head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow. And his eyes were as flame of fire. And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in the furnace. And his voice as the sound of many waters. And in his right hand he had 7 stars. And out of his mouth went a sharp 2-edged sword. And his countenance was as the sun shining in his strength. And when I saw him, I fell at his feet dead, and he laid his right hand upon me, saying unto me, Fear not, I am the first and the last. I am he that lived and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore, so be it. And I have the keys of hell and of death. Write these things which thou hast seen, and the things which are, and the things which shall be hereafter. The mystery of the 7 stars which thou saw in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars are the malachim of the 7 synagogues, and the 7 candlesticks which thou saw are the 7 synagogues. So if he sit back and he say he got 7 stars in his hand, and these are 7 synagogues, you know what that ties back to again? 7 women will come to 1 man, right? Or what about the 7 daughters in the book of Exodus? So we actually seeing, can you stop the sweet influences of him who has the 7 synagogues or 7 bodies or houses in his hand? Now, how did they bind or conspire? Well, we already read that Satan came into Judas to go get the chief priests, scribes, and priests to come back to devour the man-child that the woman was about to deliver. We know from Matthew 27:1, they took Mashiach and they bound him. They put him in fetters of iron. So let's look at Acts chapter 2, about verse 33. Acts chapter 2, verse 33. Actually, probably about verse 23. Or 22, actually. Ye men of Yasharal, hear these words, Yahushua of Nazareth, a man approved of Elohim, among you by miracles and wonders and signs, which Elohim did by him in the midst of you, as you yourselves also know. Him being delivered by the determinate counsel and foreknowledge of Elohim, you have taken him by wicked hands, have crucified and slain. Can you bind the sweet influences of Palladius? That's what they turn around and doing, right? He says, whom Elohim have raised up, having loosed the pains of death, because it was not possible that he should be holden of it. For David speak concerning him, I foresaw Yahuwah always before my face, for he is on my right hand, that I should not be moved. You know the things in Shamahim, they're fixed up there. They can't be moved. The only way they're going to be moved is when the Most High come back. He say, hold this and get Haggai chapter 2. Look what he tell you he going to do. Hold this axe and we coming right back to it. But let's get Haggai chapter 2 though. Haggai chapter 2, verse 4. Yet now be strong, O Zerubbabel, saith Yahuwah, and be strong, O Yahushua, son of Jehozadak, the high priest, and be strong, all you people of the land, saith Yahuwah, and work, for I am with you, saith Yahuwah of hosts. According to the word that I covenanted with you when you came out of Mizraim, so my Ruach remain among you, fear ye not. For thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, yet once it is a little while, I will shake the Shamahim and the Arats, and the sea and the dry land. And I will shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come, and I will fill this house with esteem, saith Yah of hosts. That's the only way the things in Shamahim going to be shaken. But see, let's come back and let's look at something else in Hebrews chapter 12. We come right back to Acts chapter 8. See, the things that are shaken, that stay, that are not removed, they stand firm, but the things that are shaken shall be destroyed. Hebrews 12, Verse 25. See ye that you refuse not him that speak, for if they escape not who refused him that spake on their rats, much more shall we not escape if we turn away from him that speak from Shamahim. So you see that there, the things on high, they speaking from Shamahim to you right now. He said, whose voice then shook the rats, but now he had promised, saying, yet once more shake I not the earth only, but also Shamahim. And this word, yes, once more signify the removing of those things that are shaken, as of the things that are made, that those things which cannot be shaken may remain. Wherefore we receiving a kingdom which cannot be moved, let us have favor whereby we may serve Elohim acceptably with reverence and godly fear, for our Elohim is a consuming fire. So this man sitting back telling you, the things in Shamahim, they can't be shaken, they can't be moved. So if you sit back and you say you a star, son of Elohim, how could you be shaken? How could you be moved? You know what I'm saying? But it happens to people all the time. All the time. Let's come back to Acts. So we sitting back looking at this man say he loosed the pain, so he loosed those bands of those that was on Orion that couldn't hold it. Stop right here in verse 27. Because thou will not leave my soul in hell, neither will thou suffer thy Kadesh one to see corruption. Thou hast made me to know the ways of life. Thou shalt make me full of joy with thy countenance. So when we come back to Job 38, we begin to sit back and see something that this is actually bearing witness to a Mashiach. So when we see this constellation, Pleiades holding these 7 stars, we actually see Hamashiach. So when we look at these things that we call constellations, they actually can be bearing witness to the Son and the work of salvation through him. That's why the world will be without no excuse. It's all up there. You can see it clear as day. If I can get back to Job 38. So when we look at verse 32 in Job 38. He said, can thou bring forth Mazaroth in his season, and can thou guide Arctis with his sons? So let's look at something when we look at that. Now, it's not going to have no definition for Mazaroth other than it's going to say Mazaroth. This is a time, an event, an experience, a fortune, occurrence, or occasion. The word is oth when we look at season in that instance. Then when we turn around and we look at Mazaroth, it says 12 signs of the zodiac, and there are 36 associated constellations. But we know we don't deal with no zodiac. They just put that in there. But the word is Mazaroth. Now we're going to look at Arctis. The word is Aish, and it's a constellation. It's a great bear, or Ursa Major is what it says. Then they say with his sons. So when we look at with his sons, we see Ben, and we know that this is son, grandson, child, a member of a group. People, a nation. But hold on, say of lifeless things, i.e. sparks, stars, arrows. So when we sitting back looking at what it says, can you bring forth Mazaroth in a season, or can thou guide Arctis with his sons? Mazaroth is the constellation of which the sun just passed through with this vernal equinox that just came through. So when you're looking at it that season, that's bringing in the new year. Remember, he set all these things up there for signs, seasons, days, and years. He told you clear as day in Exodus chapter 12, this is the beginning of months for you. So when this come in, it's also going to set years for you. And he say, bring it in the season. But then he say, guide him with his sons. Sit back and look at it. John chapter 15. Let's look at the guiding him with his sons. John 15 and about 10, I want to say. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even as I kept my Father's commandments. Matter of fact, back it up by itself. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father esteemed, that you bear much fruit, so you shall be my disciple. As the Father have loved me, so I loved you. Continue ye in my love. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even as I kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. Now you abide in the Son, that means he will be being directed by the Father. The Father would be directing those sons. He would be leading them. He would be guiding them. He would be directing them. You understand what I'm saying? Because that's Arctus, or the great bear. Now the bear thing is a whole nother matter. We'll deal with that a whole nother time. But he's sitting back looking at Arctus. Can you guide Arctus and his sons? That's what he's asking Job. Hamashiach say, come after me and you follow me. He that follow me, he that hear me, hear the Father. He that receive me, receive him that sent me. Therefore, it's the Father. Matter of fact, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, 1, just go ahead and do it for you. 1 Corinthians chapter 11. He said, be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Mashiach. Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Mashiach, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Mashiach is Elohim. So who is directing Arctus and his sons? But Yehuda, this is what he asking Job. You can do it. Because I'm the one who's doing it. So when you turn around and look at who directs the sun, moon, and stars, who directs the moon and the stars? Yahuwah does. Because he directs the moon, which is Yahusha, and Yahusha direct the stars, which is us. Because he said he pointed to them sons and said, who direct Arctus and his sons? And they say, i.e., stars. We know stars, sons, or progeny. Come on back to Job 38, man. We finna wrap this thing on up, man. So when he says, who knows the ordinances of Shamahim? Do you notice how Paul said, remember the ordinances that I delivered them unto you? Now let's turn around and let's look at Acts chapter 7. Let's look at them ordinances and see where them ordinances come from. He said, you know the ordinances? He said, can you set the dominion thereof in the earth? So can you set the authority and the power in the earth? So then we got to sit back and see who sets the ordinances of Shamahim and who set them in the earth. Then he said, can you set the likeness that they may go and say unto thee, here we are. Oh, Acts chapter 7, about verse 49 or something like that. Says verse 52, we'll use that. Which of the prophets have not your fathers persecuted? And they have slain them which showed before of the coming of the just one, whom you have been now the betrayers and murderers, who have received the law by dispensation of Malachim and have not kept it. Where did the ordinances come from? The ordinance came from on high. Let's turn around and let's look at the law and let's back it up. Exodus chapter 20. Matter of fact, we don't want 20. We want probably about 34. We'll just say it clearly. 34 and 1. We want to well say that clearly. Yahuwah said unto Moses, hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first. I will write upon these tables the words that were in the first tables which thou break. Be ready in the morning, and come up in the morning unto Mount Sinai, and present thyself there to meet me in the top of the mount. Where does the Most High dwell? In Shamaim, right? So where did the ordinances come from? The ordinances came from on high. So then when we come back and look at John chapter 6, we'll see it again. Let's look at John chapter 6. Six and 32, or 6 and 31. Our fathers did eat manna in the desert, and as it is written, he gave them bread from Shamaim to eat. Then Yahushua said unto them, truly, truly, I say unto you, Moses gave you not that bread from Shamaim, but my Father give you that true bread from Shamaim. For the bread of Elohim is he which come down from Shamaim to give life unto the world. He was giving them that law to give them life. He was giving this in the ordinances of Shamaim. He said, the word that I speak unto you, they are ruach and they are life. So I mentioned something in Deuteronomy, right? Let's look at Deuteronomy 31, because I mentioned that earlier, and we can go look at it. We still ain't went and looked at 1 Peter. We'll get to it, though. It's Deuteronomy 30, my apologies. 30 and 19. I call Shamaim and Arats to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live, that thou might love Yahuwah thy Elohim, and thou may obey his voice, and thou may cleave unto him, for he is thy life and the length of thy days, that thou may dwell in the land which Yahuwah sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them. He said he's telling them, he calling Shamaim and Arats against them. We know that what happened in Arats, Hamashiach came and fulfilled all that. But everything he came to fulfill, it was already up there in Shamaim when he made the creation. When he said, let there be light. When he made the tree that yielded fruit after his own kind. When he separated the firmament. When he sat back and said he made the sun, moons, and stars, the greater light, the lesser light, and the stars also. Because what we didn't sit back and read already, which you should already know, he made the stars and the sun and the moon and the stars on what? The 4th day, or in the midst of the week. Confirming the covenant to make you the sons of Elohim. All those that believe on him should become the sons of Elohim. Not by the will of man, not by the will of flesh, but by the will of Elohim. It was by the will of Elohim those things in Shamaim were created. Man had nothing to do with that. Flesh and blood had nothing to do with that. Even when we turn around and look at the things that are in Shamaim, since he says that Shamaim is the throne of Elohim, or the dwelling place of his kingdom, again we see flesh and blood shall not enter into the kingdom of Elohim. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to be transformed and changed of the things that are eternal, or the things that are heavenly. Let's look back at Genesis chapter 1. Well, we're looking at knowing the ordinances, and then that's what I have in mind on. Let me sit back and look at that. Let's look at 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 1. And then he said, can you set the dominion thereof in the earth? First Thessalonians 4 and 1. He say, furthermore, we beseech you, brethren, and exhort you by the Master Yahushua, that as you have received of us how you ought to walk and to please Elohim, so as you would abound more and more. For you know what commandments we gave you by the Master Yahushua, who gave the ordinances of Shamaim. But he that come down from Shamaim, he came down and taught the ordinances to the people to set the dominion thereof in the earth. How do we know he come to set the dominion thereof in the earth? Because he's Yasharah, he that rules as all. You know what I'm talking about? Have power to rule with all and man. This is what he come to do. So when we look at Luke chapter 1, because we also read last night in Psalm 89, I said his throne as the sun. Which means he coming to set dominion in the earth. He coming to set to rule. Remember, it said that that man-child was caught up to his throne because he was to rule the nations with a rod of iron. He's set to set the dominion in the earth or in the rest. So when we look at Luke chapter 1, verse 32. Make it 31. And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Yahusha. He shall be great, and he shall be called the Son of the Highest, and Yahuwah Elohim shall give unto him the throne of his father David. And he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever and ever, and of his kingdom there shall be no end. The same way he just mentioned that, we were looking at Daniel, he said he set signs in Shamahim and Aras to show that he rescues or he saves. When we look at that tree yielding fruit after its own kind, you know what I'm saying, whose seed is in itself, it's sitting back showing you how Mashiach had the word in him and that he bare fruit from his resurrection, him being first fruits. You know what I'm talking about? So therefore that could cause us, because his seed is in itself, and he said if we abide in him, then we are the branches and we'll bring forth much fruit, that he's showing you in Shamahim, well, in these creation, that he rescues. You know what I'm talking about? Even with the pure water river, the river of life coming up out of the throne, and you see the firmament set up with the water coming up out of that, he's showing you that he saves. When he sits back and he's telling you in the beginning, let there be light. I mentioned in Shamahim, but I'm really just referring to creation, everything that's in creation. You know what I'm talking about? And you sit back and you see he say, let there be light. He's showing you that he saves. When he said, I said a greater light and a lesser light, and the stars also. And then we see that these things pertain to Pesach or the Passover. He's showing you that he saves. You know what I'm saying? He's showing you that he saves, that he's working all these signs and wonders because he set all these things up for signs. Especially referring to the greater light and the lesser light and the stars. These are for signs. So when you see them things, these are showing you that Yah saves. Therefore, the whole world is without excuse. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's mouth is stopped, so to speak. But let's look at 1 Peter chapter 1. I'm turning from the page. About verse 9. First Peter 1 and 9. Receiving the end of your faith, even the salvation of your souls, of which salvation the prophets have diligently looked into, and have inquired and searched diligently who prophesied of the favor that should come unto you, searching what manner of time the Ruach of Mashiach, which was in them, did signify when it testified beforehand the sufferings of Mashiach and the esteem that should follow, unto whom it was revealed, that not unto themselves, but unto us they did minister the things which are now reported unto you by them that have preached the gospel unto you with the Ruach HaKodesh sent down from Shamahim, which things the Malachim desire to look into. So again, the things that were invisible, they had no idea. They had no idea at the things that were going on and what they were looking at. Trying to find something. Let's look at Romans chapter 3, about verse 16. Make it 9. He say, what then? Are we better than they? No, and in no wise. We have both proved, both Yahudim and Gentiles, that they are all under sin. As it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. There is none that seek, none that understand, there is none that seek after Elohim. They are all gone out of the way. They are together become unprofitable. There is none that do good, no, not one. Their throat is an open sepulchre. With their tongues they have used deceit. The poison asp under their lips, whose mouth is full of cursing and bitterness, and their feet are swift to shed blood. That's when we sitting back looking at how they were coming to bind the sweet influences of Pallades, or him that had the 7 stars, because of all that wickedness that was in them. Sitting back looking at what we were looking in Revelation chapter 12, where they wanted to devour the man-child. And that's the same thing with Mashiach come back and tell you, you shall be hated by all men for my name's sake. You know what I'm saying? Destruction and misery are in their ways, and the way of shalom they have not known. There is no fear of Elohim before their eyes. Now we know that the things soever the law saith, it saith to them that are under the law, that every mouth may be stopped, and all the world become guilty before Elohim. Therefore the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight, for by the law is the knowledge of sin. But now the righteousness of Elohim without the law is manifested, being witnessed by the law and the prophets, even the righteousness of Elohim which is by faith of Yahushua HaMashiach upon all, unto all, and upon all them that believe, for there is no difference. So you sit back and look at the righteousness of faith is right there in the skies. You know what I'm saying? Because you see in the death and resurrection of Mashiach, every time you look in the sky, the world is without excuse. They could never say that they didn't know. Look at Hebrews 2:1. Therefore we ought to give the more earnest heed to the things which we have heard, lest any time we should let them slip. For if the word spoken by Malachim was steadfast, and every transgression and disobedience received the just recompense of reward, how shall we escape if we neglect so great salvation, which at the first began to be spoken by the Master, and was confirmed unto us by them that heard him? Elohim also bearing them witness, both with signs and wonders, and with diverse miracles and gifts of the Ruach HaKodesh according to his own will. For unto the Malachim hath he not put in subjection the world to come. Wherefore we speak. But one in certain place testifies, saying, what is man that thou art mindful of him, or the son of man that thou visit him? So when we turn around and you look at it, all these things on high speaking to these things, because he said he did it with signs and wonders and diverse miracles and gifts of the Ruach. And you sitting back looking at it, it's the Ruach that created all those things. Because when you look at the waters under the firmament, it's the Ruach HaKodesh, that's eternal life. When you're looking at that tree bearing fruit after its own kind, that's raising people from the dead. You talking about looking at the Ruach manifesting a shining light or shining everlasting light in the world, bringing forth the sons of Elohim. All these gifts and these signs and these wonders, what he worked. All these signs and wonders which he worked are bearing witness in the skies to all that they may see, that no man can be without excuse. No man can sit back and say they have not heard or they have not known. See, hold on. Let me make sure that's which one it is. It's either Matthew or it's in John. And we'll stop it right there, man. Just seen that I had it in here somewhere. Let's see if it's this one then. Oh, there it is. Maybe not. Let me pull it up on the app. So Matthew 28 and 18, yet again, and I'll stop it right there. And Yahushua came and spake unto them, all power was given unto me in Shamahim and Aras. Go ye therefore and teach all nations, immersing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Ruach HaKodesh, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I commanded you. And lo, I'm with you all the way unto the end of the world, so be it. So you turn around and you look at it, the things that are in Shamahim and the rats, he got power over. He said, go and teach this to all nations, the same way that the things in the sky teaching that to all nations. As I said, let's look at Psalms 19 before I stop. So you can sit back and see that these things are teaching this stuff to all nations. Nineteen and 1. It say the Shamahim declare the esteem of Elohim, and the firmament show his handiwork. When we look at the firmament showing his handiwork, we know we are the workmanship in Mashiach, being made the sons of Elohim through him. We done looked at this recently. So when we look at the Shamahim esteem, declares the esteem of Elohim, Shamahim, the son is the esteem of the father. He say, look at John 17. John 17 and 1. These words spake Yahusha, and lift up his eyes to Shamahim, and said, Father, the hour is come. Esteem thy son, that thy son also may esteem thee. And hast thou given him power over all flesh, that he should give eternal life at as many as those as thou hast given him. And this is life eternal, that they may know thee, the only true Elohim, Yahushua HaMashiach, whom thou hast sent. I have esteemed thee on the earth, and I have finished the work which thou gave me to do. And now, O Father, esteem thou me with thy own self, with the esteem which I had with thee before the world was. So when he was up there on the stake, with that cloud on him, we know he's manifestation of the moon. You know what I'm talking about? Being the light in the midst of darkness, and you sitting back seeing how this Shamahim declares handiwork. Because who formed him? He say the potter formed him. Let's come on back over here to Psalm 19. When he say it here in verse 2, right? Day unto day, utter speech, and night unto night, show knowledge. So every time you sit back and you look at it, oh, that's the dark, or the knowledge of Elohim, the knowledge of the son of the living Elohim, that manifested night to night every time they see that moon. It's made manifest every time they see them stars, because then they able to become the sons of Elohim. You got to have the knowledge of Elohim. That's why he say everyone, but he says it's written in the scriptures that they all shall be taught of Elohim. Everyone that is heard of the Father come unto me. Listen what he say. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. And ain't no speech or language in the earth where they don't see the sun, moon, and stars. That's why he said they'll be without excuse. But hallelujah for Yahushua and the word. We're going to stop it right there, man.